Hello everyone and welcome back to the Spiegel Mom Scraps channel. Today I'm sharing a DIY ornament type of gift. You could definitely use this technique on layouts. It's similar to the technique I showed you last week here on Spiegel Mom Scraps, but definitely a little bit different since we're working with photos. Now I'm doing a round ornament this time, but if you don't have die cutting, you could easily do this with square frames you cut on a paper cutter, or you could do a silhouette sort of cut file and just keep cutting it out and making layers. So I'm going to start by cutting out my photo. You'll see that I actually cut out 2 rings, but you only needed to do the outer ring so it layers with your background. So what you'll need is one background layer, which should be the largest shape, then your photo layer, which should again be the largest shape, but you could easily do the smaller shape that you choose for the inside. And then you're going to need the layers for your stacking. I did 5 layers this time, and then I also need to die cut the acetate layer. So here I'm die cutting the background layer, and these dies from Spellbinders are perfect for this, but there's obviously ornament dies out there. You could do, like I said, silhouette. You could even do a shape within the circle that's not a circle, so like a star shape in the middle would be cute for a Christmas ornament or any sort of holiday gift. This would be really, really fun to do for the outsides of packages that you're giving to people, or even if you're doing homemade Christmas cards. If you just printed a bunch of photos of your family and then just die cut them into little ornaments that people could keep on their trees, that's a really cute idea. So you'll see that they'll layer together like that, and I'm just going to keep cutting out those double frames so I get that little piece there. Next up, I'm die cutting my acetate. This never works well for me. I don't know if it's just the way I'm putting it in my machine. I even used a shim this time, but you'll want the acetate to be the largest size again in your layer stack. So I'm picking out the largest circle. Again, these are Spellbinder Circles dies, which I love these dies very much. And I put in a cardstock shim. And sorry for the little bit of camera wiggle, that's what happens when I die cut on my desk. And it didn't cut it out all the way, so I ended up having to use scissors to finish cutting it out, but at least there was a nice line there for me to follow. You definitely don't want to cut out too much, because then you could break your shaker pocket and your sequins can go flying everywhere, which of course we don't want. So I'm just going to trim that down slightly so I know it'll fit within the frames that I have. So now we're going to start assembling. So what you're going to do first is glue down your photo. That should be with your back. I'm going to line mine up using one of the frames because I didn't make mine the full size. And now here comes the hardest part, is trying to figure out how these stack together. I of course wasn't perfect when I made my circles, so they're a little bit wonky. So I found the thinnest side and lined those up every time to make sure that the frame would be symmetrical all the way around. And then I'm just going to start gluing those down with my Tombow Mono Multi Glue. You'll definitely want to use a strong liquid adhesive. You could of course do this with foam tape as well. I just prefer to work with die cuts because it makes it more stable and less likely to deteriorate over time. So luckily with liquid glue you can slide things around a little bit so that you make sure that they're in place, and you might want to put a heavy object on top of this while you're working. Now here's my first mistake. I go to put my acetate on, and guys, I didn't put any sequins in my shaker. Luckily with liquid adhesive you can just peel it right up and then put in your sequins. So here's where I'm trying to smooth it out off camera, and then I realized I need to take it off because I forgot to put in my sequins. So at first I wanted to do a Christmas ornament with a Christmas photo, but the Christmas photo that I selected would have chopped off our heads within the frame. So I'm going to use these Forever in Blue Jeans sequin mix, and I actually dump in too much. When you're making these, make sure you don't put in too many sequins where you can't see the people within the shaker ornament. That's one of the mistakes that I also made almost. So I'm just going to plop that acetate back in place, and it is a little bit wonky. Like I said before, it didn't die cut perfectly, so I do need to trim a little bit off, and you might want to put a heavy object on top of all this so it does compress nicely and really, really adheres to that glue. So once I have the final frame on to cover the acetate, which you could easily use a decorative piece of paper, which I was originally going to do with my Christmas photo, but I decided to keep it plain with this one since the photo really stands out. Here on the background, you can't tell, but the acetate's sticking out a little bit there, and I used my scissors to trim that off. But of course it's acetate, so it's really difficult to see anyway, so if it's a little bit of that left over, it'll be okay. Next up, we need something to hang our ornament with. Originally I was going to do red and white twine for my Christmas ornament, but again I had to switch photos last minute because I didn't have a die big enough to fit the Christmas photo I wanted. So I pulled out a bunch of twines and ended up going with this smaller, thinner twine, which is actually from the dollar store, and I'll be using that to adhere to my back. Now if you remember, we did have some discard pieces from die cutting those frames earlier because the center piece we didn't really need to use, so I'll be using that to help adhere this to the back and give it a more polished look. If you're using something that's thin like a ribbon or another like paper chain to hang your ornament, you could easily stack that within the layers. I decided that twine was a little bit too thick for me to put within the layers. I think it'd cause it to be quite bumpy. So what I do is use one of those scrap pieces and line up my ornament string so I know that it'll hang nicely on the tree. And I'll trim that down, and what I'll do is tuck the tabs of the twine underneath the circle, the scrap circle there, and then that'll adhere it down nicely. I thought about tying a bow on top, so doing a more decorative theme on the top of the hanger, but I decided just to keep it plain and simple. This will make a great gift, and it'll look great on our tree. As some of you might know if you follow me on my other channel, during Vlogmas last year, we do 2 different types of trees. There's either red or gold or blue and silver. So I think this will go great on the blue and silver tree, which I think we'll do this year, which will be really fun. But I think this would make a great gift for like gift tags on packages, for Christmas cards, for someone, everyone in your family could get one of these on a stocking. Just a really quick and easy gift, and these could be easily mass produced, especially with a silhouette machine or an electronic die cutting machine like the Spellbinders or any of those. So here's a close-up look of the final product. I will be adding the date of this photo onto this, so I'm going to write 2017 with some little letter stickers on there, just to give it a little bit more personality, and that way if this did eventually like get seen by someone else, they could ask about it and they saw that it was in 2017, so it makes a little bit more sense. But now that I think about it, maybe this took place in 2016. So now I might have to go back and change that. But anyway, I put the date on there because I thought it looked nice with these round stickers. Again, implementing that round of the sequins and round of the frame and round of the photo. So that's it for today's DIY. Let me know if you guys would use this on a scrapbooking page or as a Christmas present. I'd love to know. And be sure to leave a comment down below and say what you want me to work on next for DIY embellishments. I really love how this turned out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.